and we are going to be talking to some incredible people from an organization called Sportable here in Richmond. March is Disability Awareness Month, and I try to pick organizations that have to do with some sort of disability. And when I was doing some research last year, I stumbled upon Sportable and was like, how have I never heard of this organization? So with my passion with sports and our family's passion with sports, coupled with working with people with disabilities, like this is like a full circle moment for me. So I am very honored and excited to be here with Hannah Smith, who is actually a participant. And are you like a coach now, or?
Yes, I'm a prep wheelchair basketball coach, and I do a lot of things.
Okay, awesome. And has been with the organization since you were how old?
11.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. And then Forrest Lodge is our director, or their director of strategic partnership. And he's here to talk about a little bit more about the organization. So we're going to get some hands-on. We're going to get to take a tour of this incredible facility. I came by last week and got a tour, and I was like, we have to take some footage of this cool place. I'm really going to I wore my tennis shoes because I was thinking maybe they'll let me get on something, but maybe not. So we'll see. So first of all, thank you guys for being here. I'm very excited. Forrest, I'm going to have you answer this first. Tell me a little bit about the history of this organization.
Yes, so we were founded in 2005, so it's actually our 20th anniversary this year, which is pretty special.
That's awesome.
I've been with the org since 2016, so I've been here for 9 years, and at that time we had about 4 employees, and we were in a much smaller office space in a different part of this building at SCORE, and yeah, we've just grown rapidly. I think the organization was founded because there was a need to serve the physically disabled and visually impaired community in the city of Richmond. And at the time that our founders were, thinking about, access to recreation and sport for that group of people, just wasn't really accessible through any specific organization other than maybe the VA for veterans and whatnot. And so there's a large, obviously population of civilians and veterans that have disabilities in the community that need access to sport and recreation to live a happy and healthy lifestyle and have community. And so that's a big part of the creation of the organization. And I think it's a big part of why it's persisted, is because there's always been a need for that and who we serve, and we've continued to grow and try and increase those opportunities as far as we can.
I don't see that going away either.
No.
So
yeah.
I'm assuming where you began from is still kind of the mission and vision now.
Yeah.
What is the mission of Sportable?
Yeah, our mission in a very abbreviated form is creating opportunities and transforming lives, because we feel that the space that we provide through sport and recreation provides that socialization, community, health and wellness, understanding, learning from each other. The people that come to us that have just recently acquired their disability, and they get introduced to a community of folks that potentially have the same impairment, same disability, and can learn from their life experience with that, and take many things that are not just what we provide in terms of the sport itself or the program itself, but so much more beyond that through just the space that we're creating. So
I started, like I said, with Sportable as an athlete when I was 11. I actually found Sportable through a Paralympic experience day that they did at VCU at the time. And so you would get to go and try multiple different sports. And I actually wound up starting with tennis, because at the time Sportable didn't have a team for younger kids. It was a varsity team, which is 13 to 18.
Okay.
Now I would have been allowed to participate, but I was a little intimidated by all of the high school boys. And so I started with tennis. It was really hard, and I wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed it so much. And 2 years later, when I turned 13, I started with Sportable's wheelchair basketball program, and it absolutely changed my life. I love to tell this story because I remember the first time that I realized that I belonged.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that I felt like I wasn't different.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment happened at nationals when I was 14. It was my first nationals. It was in Louisville, Kentucky.
Wow.
And I go into this gym with over a dozen courts, and I look around and I see more people who have disabilities than people who don't. And not once that week did I get asked, why are you in a wheelchair? What's wrong with you? Or any one of the, little quips that people like to say to us, like, you're going to get a speeding ticket. And that was the first time that I truly felt like I belonged.
That's awesome.
I have been playing wheelchair basketball for a long time, and that turned into going out into the community with Sportable and speaking at schools because I was homeschooled.
Okay.
So I had the flexibility to go visit different elementary, middle, and high schools. Even when we talked to adults sometimes about the impact of Sportable and the power of adaptive sports. And a few years later, I started going to these wheelchair basketball camps that happen in the summer at universities.
Okay.
And so the first time I rode on a plane by myself, I was 15. That is not typical for most kids, but especially not a kid with a disability. And it was kind of right place at the right time because my parents knew that I needed this opportunity and I needed that confidence boost. And so I went to these camps, and you learn basketball skills, yes, but you get a sense of community, a sense of belonging. You learn leadership skills. You learn how to speak in front of people and how to carry yourself. And so that's led me into a lot of really cool things. So when I went to college and played wheelchair basketball, I came home that summer and I said, hey, Forrest, the closest wheelchair basketball camp is in Illinois for kids in Richmond. Could we maybe start a camp? And Forrest said, absolutely we can. Hey, there's this venue that's opened up in 3 weeks. I think we could do this in 3 weeks, and we did it in 3 weeks, and we had 20 campers.
Where did you go? Who
We
led
were
you?
at
Glen Allen High School.
Okay.
Yeah, the first year. Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
this year will be our 4th year of camp. I run it every year. We've been lucky enough to bring in a Paralympian, Trayvon Jennifer, to also help run camp. And this past summer, I received an ESPY award for my service to the disability community through sports.
Amazing. So the camp goes every summer now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
where do you guys have it?
So last year we had it at Randolph-Macon College.
Okay.
And right after we had the camp there, 2 days later, we emailed the people who lent it to us, and we said, your facility is amazing. You guys are awesome to work with. We'd like to make this an ongoing thing. So this year we'll be returning to Randolph-Macon College, and if everything goes as I would love it to go, we'll be returning there for the foreseeable future.
And how many kids do you get to come to camp now?
So the first 2 years we had 20 kids.
Okay.
And the second year, Trayvon Jennifer came. Last year was our 3rd year. And people had started to talk and say, oh, Trayvon Jennifer was here. This camp is a really good camp. They put it on very well. Last year we had 35 campers.
That's awesome.
So an extreme jump if
Yes, and I'm assuming they can spend the night too. It's not just for locals.
So they stay in hotels.
Okay.
Generally, and so their parents will come down and they'll stay all weekend. It's a weekend camp.
Okay.
Makes it a little bit easier for them. But they come in the morning. They have lunch provided. We go from early in the morning till mid-afternoon, and sometimes we also do activities at night, which are optional for the
That's
kids.
really cool. Now, what ages can come to camp?
Yeah, so in the past, our youngest we've had is 5 years old, and our oldest has been, I think, 19.
Okay.
So any kid who is eligible for a wheelchair basketball program has a place to come play.
Okay.
And it may look a little different, for a 5-year-old who may not stay the whole day at camp for 8
Just the
hours,
exposure.
but can come and see a 17-year-old who has a disability, who's playing wheelchair basketball, who can drive a car,
Yeah.
who's getting their first summer job, And they're learning not only that they can play wheelchair basketball, but they have a future that is filled with hope and possibilities.
I love it.
With their career, with friendships, with opportunities, and that's always been my heart, and that's the reason we started this camp.
I love it.
But yes, so any age that's still in high school.
Okay. Just one piece of the puzzle here.
Right.
Tell me about some of the other programs that you guys have.
Yeah, so I think our term right now is 17 plus because there's a lot of nuance into like what we do in every sport. So basketball, an example is we have a prep team, 13 and under, and a varsity team, high school age, an adult team, 18 and up, or some juniors that may be mature and physically able to keep up, can play up. And then we have a women's team as well that just started this year, the Virginia Vortex. So that's just one of the sports of the 17, but there's so many different breakdowns that kind of exist within that because we try to kind of accommodate and provide space for what our athletes want to pursue. Whereas before it was kind of just like, okay, it was just one thing for each thing, one program, one size fits all. We try to make do with what we've got in terms of the resources, number of volunteers, amount of equipment, all of that. And so as we've grown with our staff and with our connections and with our understanding of what we do better, that's expanded. And so we've got team sports like wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, CP soccer, which is kids with traumatic brain injury, cerebral palsy, or just some sort of gait impairment that they can still run, jog, and kick a ball just a little bit differently than their non-disabled peers. We've got power wheelchair soccer, so power wheelchair users have specific wheelchairs or attachments to play power wheelchair soccer on a basketball court. So those are the different team sports, or I might have even forgotten one, but we also have like outdoor stuff. So cycling, road racing and running, which is kind of like a hybrid of track and field and like distance sort of running. What else? Kayaking, rowing, archery, a lot of different individual, team, outdoor, indoor, ball sport, adventure sport opportunities. So we always say that like anyone that we come across that has a qualifying disability to participate, there's something there for you. You may not know it yet. You may not be a sports person if you acquired your disability and didn't before, but we try to get them to just try anything and everything. And you might fall into something that you really enjoy, but it's not just the sport. It might just be that community aspect that they link to and may not ever be a competitive athlete, but that space provides them health and wellness, some enjoyment, but the camaraderie around it. And so we have a lot of those athletes that are just kind of there to exercise and be around others and feel like they belong. But then we also try to provide those spaces for our athletes who want to pursue to be competitive and high-level athletes.
So the teams, do they just compete in like tournaments?
That's pretty much the how the structure works because of the number of people locally as well as the closeness of other programs. So for, again, using wheelchair basketball as an example, for the junior teams, their closest team is in Fairfax, which is not bad compared to some other states and locations. And then they've got Baltimore, Philly, New York, Pennsylvania, South. They've got, kind of the Raleigh, Durham area, Charlotte. I think it's like Greenville, South Carolina. So it's kind of like it's state by state. There's usually like one or two teams.
And it's all year round?
We provide access to basketball programming relatively close to year round. The season itself for the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, the NWBA, kind of begins in like the September, October, like post Labor Day time frame and lasts through the national championships, which are typically around the beginning of April. So we are returning to the new-ish Henrico Sports and Event Center, which was amazing for us last year. We hosted this tournament last year. We had 100 teams across both weekends from all over the country, around 1,100 wheelchair basketball athletes from your 5-year-olds in prep all the way to Paralympians that represented Team USA in Paris after the tournament. 4 of which were on the starting 5 for the men's team that won gold, all played in Richmond in April.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, and many, former Paralympians that are past, that point in their career that are still playing the game in the domestic league were here from the men's and women's side. So it's a really special event because you have so many high-level athletes together in one space, and you can kind of touch them and watch them and be right there. And I think it's super important for the Richmond community too to kind of see the scope of it. It doesn't just exist in this Sportable bubble. If you're familiar with us, it's everywhere. The need is everywhere. These things exist outside of here, but they also exist on a very high level in terms of athleticism when you think about sport and what we do and who we serve. By kind of coming out and watching not only like the really talented junior players, which are the future of the sport, but the ones that are kind of killing it on the national stage and international stage as well.
How did we get it 2 years in a row?
One, we did a really great job last year.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
But two, I think it was kind of always part of our bid package. We wanted to, have that opportunity to do it twice and to do it better than we did the first time. And so we learned a lot in year one, but felt really confident and kind of like, Hannah talked about, we've been going, I was the wheelchair basketball program coordinator for us for a number of years. And so we would go with our team from Richmond to wherever it was being hosted. So we had a lot of experiences as a participant and then as a team kind of experiencing that event from
pros and cons.
So we're like, okay, what do we like about this? What do we like about that? What was the airport experience like when we had to fly? All these things kind of come into factor as you're planning it, right? So I don't know. We just have really great partners with Richmond Region Tourism and the Henrico Sports and Entertainment Authority, and tons of amazing like local supporters through sponsorship and donors that really helped us make it achievable, because it's not a cheap event. It's a very, very big deal. Yeah.
So are you all the organization that literally is the nonprofit that puts this on? You partner with another area nonprofit to help.
So locally, those two entities that I mentioned, Richmond Region Tourism and Henrico Sports and Entertainment Authority, play a major role in us being able to host this. One, through access to that venue. So I still remember, like, as it was being built, us having these conversations, because we had already kind of won the bid to host. So we were working lock and step with them to kind of make sure that things are progressing on the timeline, but also like, what all is going to be in there? What do we have access to? What are the cool new technologies that we can take advantage of? Maybe like streaming. We streamed every game last year across both weekends. It's like 196 games or something crazy like that.
Really? Yeah. What did you use? Baller TV?
No, they have existing technology and cameras in the building,
That's awesome.
as well as like additional equipment brought in. And so we kind of worked with a gentleman named Mike Stokel, who helped us build our own like streaming website, and it all lived there, and worked with our amazing partners at Performax, which is one of the wheelchair manufacturers, to help provide the necessary funding to pay for those services, to provide that amazing deliverable to the league. It's never been done before for that tournament. They've usually had like one camera on one feature court. We streamed every court, and had a feature court that had multiple angles and commentators and all the things. So it's a big deal.
Set the bar high for the next location.
For sure.
So, I mean, how many people are here at Sportable?
I think we're hovering around, I think, like 14, 15 right now.
I'm assuming y'all need all hands on deck for this event.
Yeah, all hands on deck. I think there's a core team that's really actively working on it day in and day out on all the finite details. And then we develop kind of a staff plan for what areas of the event that we need our team to support from. Certainly on the days like load in and set up and then breakdown on the back end, there's an all hands on deck aspect. And that's kind of the culture in sports, as many people know, in a lot of different sport backgrounds. So
tell me what you need to have as far as qualifications to be able to help out.
In terms of like volunteering, I think I'm trying to remember the exact age that we set the bar on, but like oftentimes when youth come with their parents, we are pretty accommodating, like, hey, mom, dad, you're going to be around and you guys are going to work together at the scorer's table or something. Like, we're a little bit flexible there. But we usually start at like 14 years old. And we have a variety of different opportunities, right? We've got the very basic, very important aspect. It's a national championship. It's not just like a pickup game, right? So we need people that know what they're doing the game clock and scoreboard, the shot clock, all divisions, starting in high school and beyond, use a 30-second shot clock, same as NCAA. So we have our 17 different sport programs. We are operating anywhere from 3 to 6 on a weekly basis at a time. They're typically year round. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's small breaks here or there. We'll be on a small pause as we host this major event in April, but yeah, we're hosting things. They're typically in like seasons, right? So there's like maybe 8 weeks is kind of the average number of weeks that we have it, and they occur on the same night, same location, same time for that number of weeks. And so
you could volunteer for the entire season, one night every week, so you already know what night you would have to be available.
Exactly. And there's consistent things like that. We host other annual one-off events similar to the national tournament, and just not as big in scale, but pretty, substantial. So we do like a smaller, like regional wheelchair basketball tournament, the River City Classic. So it's very similar volunteer opportunities there, and it's just kind of like a one-off thing. You don't have to commit to a certain number of weeks, just a shift or however many you're willing to work. We have a wheelchair tennis tournament every June, the River City Slam. It's brings in players from all over the country, and they even brought in 9 international players last year from outside the country, which is pretty awesome. So that's in June, and we try to professionalize that tournament. So we have like ball runners and all that kind of stuff like you would see on TV for tennis tournaments, which is fun. We do an adaptive sports festival that we hope to have returning in early 2026. That's kind of like what Hannah mentioned with our Paralympic Experience Day, where she was exposed to all the different things that we offer. It's that aspect, but then we bring in our community partners and all the organizations locally that may have some parallels to the community that we serve and provide services to the disability community, but also our friends at Jacob's Chance, our friends at the Special Olympics, Beyond Boundaries, the people that serve the other areas of the disability community that may not be accommodated through Sportable. We make sure that they're there as well, because it's a very widespread event that we're just trying to bring as many people in to be exposed to what's out there, and it's a really cool event because it just brings all of our community together. It's not one sport; it's everyone. So there's that, and then there's so many. Bless you. There's so many different sports, right? So it's similar to like our athletes. There's probably a volunteer opportunity that may fit in with like a hobby, and you don't have to necessarily be an expert in that sport. It certainly helps to have some familiarity and be an extension of our coaching staff and stuff like that. But really, it's like energy, enthusiasm. We provide disability etiquette training and some onboarding opportunities to feel more comfortable as you enter that space if you're not familiar with interacting with people with disabilities. And we just kind of rock and roll from there. So,
like, how big is this community in Richmond?
I'd say we're consistently between 400 and 500 participants a year, and that's like not always including like the numbers that we do for events as well. And we know that could be bigger, right, in terms of like awareness opportunities for people that just haven't come close enough, to coming into contact with our marketing opportunities, or just knowing like are their doctors aware of what we do, or their therapists aware of what we do. So we're continuously out there trying to have those connections, developing relationships with like rehabilitation hospitals like Sheltering Arms Institute and Children's Hospital of Richmond and Bon Secours, just trying to be in those spaces where they're being seen, so that they can understand that there's a continuum of their care and well-being outside of the clinical setting. So
I love it. And what people don't realize is we have athletes with knee replacements. We have athletes who have arthritis. We have athletes who maybe they wouldn't consider themselves disabled. Maybe they're older athletes who just can't play tennis as well as they used to play tennis, and now they play pickleball with us. Standing. They don't have to use a wheelchair. They can if that helps them. We have athletes who have cerebral palsy and prosthetics who walk all of the time and sit in a wheelchair for their favorite sport. And so we serve athletes with quadriplegia, some of our athletes are nonverbal. And they have a physical disability as their primary disability. So the range is very wide, wider than many people may think. I have a lot of people who come to us and say, "Oh, well, I thought this was just wheelchair sports." It's not. It's standing sports.
That's good.
It's sports for people who use prosthetics. But we've had athletes who really didn't know that they qualified or that they have a disability. They just thought they were old or injured or things like that. And, we have people who come from really great sports backgrounds who've, played football and had an injury. That's awesome.
Just the same website /donate. So sportable.org/donate.
Okay.
They could reach out to our advancement team if they have any, specific interests, specific programs they want to support. Obviously, general support is, the best because we can kind of contribute it where we need it.
But you need sponsors for the tournament too.
Yeah,
right?
Sponsors for that tournament, all of our events. We often work with larger organizations to kind of have overall support, and then can do unique placement at certain events to activate upon their support.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's a huge, we're a nonprofit first, right? So and we are able to serve who we serve more and more and grow only through the support that we get from our community, individual donors, foundations, granting organizations, and corporate partners as well. Anywhere from small to large organizations locally. We are happy to work with everyone and kind of happy to welcome them to the Sportable family, because I think we, as you probably are starting to kind of feel and hear about what we do, it's like, this is really cool.
It's so cool. Yeah. So this is exciting because we are here at Sportable in their incredibly amazing warehouse / offices. And Hannah is going to give us a tour of what goes on here behind the scenes.
You can see we were just in the conference room for the interview portion. We have offices and desk space right as you walk in. But this is exactly where, basically all of Sportable lives from a administrative perspective and storage of all of our adaptive sports equipment. So a little small break area here to the right, and then now you have just a buttload of equipment, excuse the term. So here we have a number of cycles. Specifically in the blue and white and red and silver are tandem cycles. So they're built for athletes with visual impairments. So you'll have an athlete who has a visual impairment on the back, and then a volunteer on the front, what's called like the pilot, kind of guiding and steering the bike while they both kind of pedal and communicate together. So
I got my first basketball chair fairly quickly because I knew that was my sport and that's what I loved. The cool thing about basketball chairs is they can often be used for other sports like tennis, pickleball, a lot of your, sports that you would use a chair for. They have slight differences, but they can.
Differences. Like
yeah. We can go see. So the athlete is kind of stationed in this bucket here, leaning forward, and that gives them the most leverage to push their chair quickly. And this actually is a steering contraption, so when you hit the lever, it turns the wheel to a predetermined angle for if you're running track, so you don't have to keep steering around the curve. You can hit the button, it takes you around the curve, hit it back, it goes straight.
I have an example of a basketball wheelchair here.
Oh my goodness.
This is just like how we kind of store things to keep the wheels together and with the appropriate chair.
Okay.
They have these little quick release axles that help you put it on, and we'll add them to the frame.
So the big differences between this chair and my what we call everyday chair, so a chair that I use every day, is that these wheels are outwards. And that's the most obvious thing. That's called camber. And there are many reasons for that. First of all, it's faster. It turns quicker. But also, if you think about it, if I go too close to somebody in this wheelchair, my fingers get crushed. And so it's also a safety mechanism.
That makes sense.
And when I would go to maybe shoot, if I, this chair would easily flip to the side. This chair is not going anywhere. It's stable. It's not going to flip over. These are awesome occupational therapy and rec therapy interns. So They're here and they work under, these guys are our OT interns and they work under our occupational therapist, and our rec therapy interns will work under our certified recreation therapists. And so we have several of them every season. So fall, spring, winter, summer, and they come in and they help us a lot and they learn a lot. So this is basketball, tennis, lacrosse, and maybe a couple of other sports. You can play pickleball with these chairs. And so you'll see the 2 wheels in the back. You'll actually see on this chair, and it's a little tippy, it has 1 wheel. And so this is what I would refer to this as a tennis chair. So for tennis, you're not colliding with a person, or hopefully you're not colliding with a person as much as in basketball. One of our athletes right now, I met him at the Paralympic Experience Day when he was 2.5. He's now 10 years old, and I coach him on the prep wheelchair basketball team. And so you really do see people their entire lifespan and see the confidence gained by access to this sport, because who knows what that child's life might have been like without knowing that he had peers who were like him and having adults who can be role models. Last week, I worked with him on how to transfer from this chair to a basketball chair. And, you know, while somebody else could do that, maybe a teacher at school, people with disabilities are, you know, qualified in a unique way to help mentor younger people. And so